Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the fifth episode of our series, Podcast Presents. Every business has been involved in lead qualification in the offline world, even if they did not know that they were actually qualifying the leads. But what about the online world we are currently living in? Do businesses know how to qualify leads without face-to-face interaction? And what will be the future of lead qualification for them? Today, let us uncover that with the most awaited guest of the series, the founder and CEO of WotNot Solutions and Maruti Techlabs, Mr. Mitul Makadia. Welcome, Mitul. Thank you for joining us today for this discussion. Let me start by asking you the very obvious question. What does a day in Mitul Makadia's life look like?
Right. Thanks, Neha, for having me here. My days are usually simple. Like either I start with finding some problem to work on, or I help our team members to fix some problem. So I see myself as a problem solver for this.
Okay. So Mitul, that sounds really amazing that you actually consider yourself as a problem solver than just being a CEO. So I want to ask you that with the new normal kicking in, most transactions are happening online. However, the experience of online purchase and online conversations have become quite challenging than what it was offline. How do you feel we all can solve that problem?
Sure. So whenever I go for shopping, I learn from the my own experience. So I have seen that whenever you go for a high ticket purchase items, often you have a question around how would the support work or how would the things work post purchase. And let me just tell you, one of the recent example. We are setting up a new office and we are just buying, ACs for that. And this is the first time we are purchasing such a high ticket size item on the online. So when I went for the purchase, I had so many questions, but it was just pretty much simple. You add to the cart and check out. I don't feel the purchase of AC versus the purchase of mobile phone is, same. It's a lot different. So you have question about how would the post installation support will work, how would they install it, do they have knowledge of my premises, so how would they make sure? And this kind of curiosity triggered me to kept me stopping from the purchase. But if there was a bot there, it could have answered so many questions that I had at that point in time. One of the other example I had was about the recent upgrade of the hardware we are making for our developers. So we are changing from Windows to Mac. And at that time also I had some question that whether certain applications may work seamlessly or not, or what if I need to change my some of the software to make sure it works. So this kind of questions comes in when you are making high ticket item purchase, and those items are pretty big decisions that you are doing at the time of shopping, and so you need a good hand holding at that time. And for that I feel it's not yes or no, it's you need some hand holding through some software, and I feel the bot is the perfect thing for that. It can answer certain queries that shoppers may have and make sure that transaction becomes seamless.
Right. So now, Mitul, when we are talking about a high ticket purchase, the highest end purchase that is possible is a real estate. Now, what according to you is the problem in the real estate industry, and how do you think can we solve it in terms of the communication and interaction?
Definitely. So we have deployed so many bots with real estate players, so we know a lot of details about their problems. So I have seen there are multiple categories of the real estate players. Some of them are just dealing in luxurious segment, some of them are dealing in just mid-size or budget segment. So but they all have different way to qualify the leads. Some are just dealing in a standard set of offerings where they just want to ask a certain question about size and about the locality, then nearby amenities kind of questions from the buyer's perspective, while others luxurious segment may want to know a little more about the customers, their buying capacity, what are their other memberships, about clubs. So they try to derive the personality of the buyer based on those qualification questions. So real estate companies wants to qualify their buyers to make sure that they are only talking with most relevant people instead of talking with a bunch of people. And their sales cycle is pretty long, so they cannot afford to deploy so many people to answer all these questions. And that's where I feel the bots are really useful. they can qualify people very nicely, very politely, and in most convenient manner, instead of you deploy a mediocre guy to just qualify the customers. Even I have seen that, when myself, I went to look for a few luxurious properties, the experience given by certain employees was not really good. Instead, I would have preferred a technology that could be more convenient for me. It would have given a even better experience. So I feel the qualification in the real estate can be really improved in a huge way, and it can be improved with a better qualification question through a bot.
Okay, that sounds really insightful, Mitul. But now I want to bring another very important domain in the whole conversational AI world, which is support. Now, let's take a different industry now, a SaaS industry. You yourself run a SaaS company. And we all know that SaaS companies are generally set to provide the maximum amount of customer support, as it is a very crucial element in its success. But I have seen a lot of reviews and people's experience with SaaS companies that the interaction and the level of support provided has been deteriorating with time. Because they have to continuously keep on explaining the same problem to different people repetitively. Do you think a chatbot can solve this problem?
Definitely. I think, you got it really right. So in SaaS companies, I have seen that, the software is so much of sophisticated, but the moment you start asking a question related to something that you don't have answer, and then you connect with the people, the experience goes really bad. And that I have personally, experienced. Even recently we set up the Salesforce. To get the Salesforce license was easy, but then to set it up and set it in the right way, the workflows and the automation, it was very difficult. So I feel there should be some way where the companies should leverage more chatbots, and that chatbots can really solve the problem. One more example I had was when we set up this WotNot INC in the US, it was done through Stripe Atlas. It's a online service to set up the company. I never formed a company without a person, and this was my first experience. So I was stuck at multiple points where how would the incorporation process would work, and how would I transfer money, and how would I set the bank account? So many questions were then, and those questions were not really answered well during the experience. So at that time, if there was a bot, I could have asked those questions, and it could have answered from the knowledge base, because this company incorporation is a pretty static process. It's repetitive, but those questions are pretty new for every the person who is setting up the company first time. So I feel that chatbot can answer those questions from the repository of standard database, and it can make the experience very smooth. Otherwise, I have to stop it and then go to the support, get the answers, and then resume the process. So I feel whenever there is a multi-step process, and each process step asks for some inputs, which are questioning you the whether, so how would I make sure that I open a bank account in US? And at that time, okay, you stop at that step only, instead of resuming further, and then you reach out to the support and ask, okay, we can manage it with our own network. So a blended support and purchase can be together in a SaaS onboarding, and it can make a process very seamless.
Right. All of this sounds so amazing that my inquisitiveness is only seeming to grow. So I'm just going to shoot another question. Let's take a very different domain again, which is e-commerce. We have seen that Amazon sales have spiked since the new normal. Can conversational marketing also help e-commerce, considering that fact that e-commerce companies do not really have a sales team? And sometimes there's only one person who has begun the company and is providing support as well. Do you think we can implement conversational marketing for e-commerce?
Of course, e-commerce is the best example. And as you said, most startups are having very few people to support things. And in e-commerce, you are selling always some unique item, and then you want to make sure that customers makes the purchase decision faster. So with chatbot, it's always there as a personalized assistant. Across the entire catalog of items or wherever you're browsing. So it can proactively throw the deals. It can proactively give you the suggestions or recommendation. If you see the Amazon, they have a section of recommendation. Now that can be even further improved through the bot, because bot knows your purchase history, or bot knows what you are looking at, and it can make the recommendations to speed up the closure or the sale from the seller's perspective. So definitely a chatbot would be a huge thing for e-commerce, and we are clearly seeing that as an advantage for our customers also.
Right. So, Mitul, what is your vision about WotNot making conversations seamless? Do you feel all the consumer brand communication could be made seamless?
Of course, it can be like seamless, but I'm thinking even beyond that. Like, it's right now people are talking about just making things seamless, but I would say, make it seamless and make it quick, because people have very short attention span when they are making purchases for like low to medium size ticket inventory. They are like very like they expect very quick response, and chatbots are like very good at that. So like chatbot can answer things in real time in a quick manner and make sure that before you lose the attention of a buyer, it can answer you things, and we make sure you are like never veer off your track. So definitely that can be improved through the chatbot.
That sounds like an amazing vision, Mitul. And now I want to ask you, what is the current status as a product in solving the problems you said that a chatbot can solve? And where are we planning to reach?
Sure. So we started, like a couple of years back, and as of now, like we are moving as a more rule-based approach, where we are defining the rules of the chatbot, and then making sure based on your prior knowledge of the buyer's behavior, and then trigger the chatbot rules. But the next step is like AI, because as we are gathering more and more data, we know a lot about the buyer's behavior, and then make sure that we can use those data, and then we try to become more predictive. So instead of we always ask like basic questions, we try to use existing set of information and then become more reactive. So like if I am reaching out to a support bot, then support bot should know a lot of detail about me, instead of I always provide the detail. So it's like bot should be proactive and answering the queries as it is just knowing you since a long time.
All right. So Mitul, now considering the future of lead qualification and how it is presently online, what would you like to tell our audience, which spends like 8 to 10 hours every week on manual lead qualification?
Sure, definitely. So if you are spending 8 to 10 hours a week right now, then if you keep doing the same approach, you will end up in spending almost an entire week in lead qualification as your business grows, right? So somehow businesses will have to adapt the new ways to do the qualification, which is like within the seconds or minutes, and not in the hours. And it should be scalable, and that's where the chatbot would come in. It can qualify no matter it's 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, or million people, in the real time, because it can scale itself. So scalable lead qualification would be the big thing, and businesses should keep thinking about deploying chatbot and making sure they are completely getting rid of this manual lead qualification and just deploy their own manpower when it is absolutely needed, instead of each and every interaction.
Right. So thank you so much, Mitul, for shedding light on this topic. It was definitely a very insightful one in terms of what lead qualification is today, how the world is facing problem online, and how can it be solved. I'm sure a lot of industries will now know how to take or make lead qualification more efficient in the online world. This was episode 5 of our series, and it was nothing better than hearing about WotNot from the man himself.
Thank you. Thanks for setting this up.
Now, for the last episode of our series next week, we have another guest diving deeper into the series. Lastly, thank you for watching and listening. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below or email us at hello@wotnot.io. Thank you.